and we are getting an update as to the how the after-school grant program is developing. This is new, created through having sales tax revenue from cannabis sales being devoted to after-school and summer school programs in Vermont.
Thank you very much. To reintroduce myself, my name is Johannes Hensch. I am the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program Manager for the Agency of Education. I oversee the team that supports the Act 78 funded state after-school and summer learning programs. I also oversee work-based learning in K-12 settings and community schools. I'm here today to talk to you about the Act 78 State After-School Grant Program. As I understand it, you wanted an update on what's being done, what's that funding, what expansion we're seeing, and what are sort of plans for the future. So I'm going to try to run through those very quickly. I have joining me today a couple of guests. I have Beth Ann Miller from Missisquoi Valley School District, and I have Alyssa Hunt from the Brattleboro Boys and Girls Club. Both of these fine individuals are after-school directors and recipients of this grant funding. I've asked them here to talk a little bit about what their experience with that process has been and what some of the good work that funding is enabling in their communities. So, when this body passed the Act 78 legislation, the Agency of Education was charged with supporting through grants the expansion of after-school summer learning programs across the state. The legislation was fairly flexible in how that happened. It just said, we're going to do it with a grant. So our first challenge was sitting down and saying, what does that need to look like? And we looked in three places to kind of find our guidance. The first was the authorizing legislation. What were the specific requirements and stipulations that were placed on this competition? The second was the state's existing, very successful, very robust 21C program. That's the 21st Century Community Learning Centers. That's the state-managed federal after-school funding. And I have Emmanuel Betts, who manages that program for the state, here with us in case there are any questions in that area. We knew that there had been very good work done in terms of designing a successful working program there, and we wanted to make sure that we were aligning our strategy with that. And then the last place we looked was the Governor's Interagency After-School Task Force report that was published in 2021. An enormous amount of work from an enormous number of partners went into that, and so we wanted to make sure we were honoring all of that work and picking up with the recommendations there. So using those three sort of sources, we ended up designing a program that was our state after-school grant that we competed for FY24. This was, in many ways, a pilot program. This was a smaller sum of money. This was a smaller competition just to make sure it worked. We were allowing funding for new programs and expansion of programs. We were looking to prioritize programs that would utilize partnerships to connect across as many providers within communities as we could. We were looking for programs that were serving historically underserved communities. We talk a lot about after-school deserts, places where there is not currently and for a significant amount of time has not been after-school or summer programming. Those are areas that we want to make sure that we are getting into. And we were looking for programming that was improving access to students from historically marginalized groups, which is a fairly flexible definition, but it's trying to make sure that our programming is expanding access and opportunities for all Vermonters. In this first round, we had a single application stream for everyone. There is a chart here, but there is also one of the packets I passed out is a small thing that looks like this, is a much more robust breakdown of sort of what the different streams of this competition looked like. We wanted to make sure our competition was as flexible as possible and as responsive as possible to anyone on the full range and scope of implementation. If there was a small program in a community library that was just getting their feet under them, we wanted them to have an entrance point. If there was a massive supervisory union-wide program that was hitting a number of different schools and doing all kinds of incredible stuff, we wanted them to have an entrance point. So we wanted to make sure we were as responsive to as many people as we could. B is the verb in that sentence. So this first competition, we had about 60 applications come in. That was an incredible amount of response. It speaks to an incredible need for this work. After the sort of assessment and scoring period, we ended up distributing 17 awards to 16 unique entities. The division there was 9 schools, 7 community-based organizations. All told, that represented $3.7 million for 3-year awards. One of the things we recognized was that for these awards to really have the kind of impact we wanted and to really allow for the kind of growth we wanted to see, these needed to be multi-year commitments on our part. You can't just dip in and fund something and then escape. It needs to be an ongoing commitment. We had sites in 11 of Vermont's 14 counties. We received 73 named partner organizations, and most importantly of all, we're talking about new or expanded after-school programming for about 4,000 young Vermonters. This map right here shows the spread of awardees. If you look in this handout, which is the Act 78 after-school report, there is a copy of this map on page, it's on one of the pages with labels. So, what did we sort of get for that effort? We got expanded programming in sites across the state. We got opportunities for young people to experience resources that they would not otherwise have access to. We got young people up in the Northeast Kingdom having opportunities to design their own teen center that they felt comfortable, a place where they could feel a sense of pride and ownership. We got access to programming that just, it doesn't fit within the school day or the school design. Things like cooking, things like robotics, things like robust outdoor recreation. And I think this map is almost more interesting than the one that shows just where the sites are. We asked, after about 4 months of implementation, we asked our grantees just kind of a straw poll survey. What towns are you seeing young people from? And this was the response we got. So while that map, there's some significant white space between the individual sites, this is telling us that we're having a bigger impact than just where are the sites. These are pulling youth from the surrounding communities. These are becoming hubs and centers, and that's really exciting. That's something that we're really looking to keep promoting and expanding. With our focus on partnerships, we also saw some non-traditional offerings getting in the game, or some offerings that might have been available in kind of small amounts to select few being more widely available. So these 2 examples are 2 of the organizations that we would consider partner organizations. These are 2 of the non-school entities that kind of came in on this competition. The first is Vermont Works for Women, an exciting opportunity, or an exciting organization that is dedicated to providing hands-on tool and trade skills training for young women and girls. They do absolutely incredible work. They provide curriculum, they provide teachers, they provide tools in many cases, and they're delivering their program in tech centers. Then the other picture there is from the Montshire Museum, wonderful science museum in the southeast. They are developing sort of deployable STEM kits where they have a full classroom set of materials and tools, and they will provide all of the materials you need and an educator and resources, and they leave behind a box of stuff that they can use after this educator departs. And they are deploying this program out. They have a 1 hour and 30-minute range around their center that they're operating on. But they're expanding some really incredible novel STEM programming out into youth after-school spaces. 2 weeks ago, I was watching elementary schoolers having Madagascar hissing cockroaches crawling all over them. Just adorable. It was wonderful. I didn't get any pictures. That was a mistake. So that first round, we're very happy with that. We think that was a really a successful implementation, but it also revealed some growth opportunities. So we said, we're going to take our learning in that space and we're going to expand out. So what do we need to change? We made 2 changes very quickly. We hired 2 additional people at the Agency of Education. We recognized that with the model we were using, we were going to be on track to be supporting roughly 100 grantees. If each one of those gets visited once per year, that's 2 visits a week, every week, all year. That's a massive undertaking. So we hired an additional person to increase our monitoring and oversight capacity. We also hired an additional person to increase our data collection and analysis capability. All of the maps you're seeing here came from that data analysis position. We also made some sort of structural changes to the competition itself. We realized that a single stream application was not quite the right fit, so we split it into 2 separate competitions. We got some feedback that our award caps were maybe not quite tuned correctly, so we adjusted our award ranges. We got feedback that for the smaller programs, waiting until the new fiscal year to start the funding, that was too much of a delay. If we're talking about sort of implementation-ready programs that we want to stand up, and hey, summer programs are starting to hire their staff in May. They want to have their materials and everything set up in place before the students get out of school. They can't do that if their funding doesn't start till July. So we pushed the start of those program tracks forward to January so that we could have more immediate implementation. And we increased the length of the center tracks from a 3-year award to a 5-year award, because that's the model that we have in 21C, and we wanted to kind of align as much as possible our different funding opportunities. Our second award cohort.
I was going to ask a quick question since you brought up 21C. And I've been curious about the intersection of this program and 21C. If somebody applies for 21C, doesn't get funded, are they sort of automatically enrolled in competition for this? They have to do 2 separate applications?
That is a little bit of a fiddly answer, or a fiddly question, but I think I can give you an answer. The immediate answer is no, they're not immediately enrolled. We do allow dual kind of application. We have a lot of folks who have existing 21C funds who said, geez, it would be great if we could get just a little bit more money to add another school into our network, or to add another program to our offerings. So we saw a lot of folks who are doing that. This year, one of the things we tried that was kind of a novel approach was we said, we're going to look at the folks who did not receive 21C, and if there's anyone in that pool where they didn't receive funding strictly because there wasn't enough funding to go around, if they put in a robust, high-quality application, but there just wasn't enough funding that came down from the feds to support them, are we able to support them? So that's something we're trying this year in a little bit of a pilot capacity. We have 1 program that is going to be receiving funding in that way.
Rob?
Yeah, just a quick question. So with the second award cohort, does this represent year 4 or year 2? In other words, did you wait till the first 3 years were up and then you awarded again? Or is this actually like year 2?
This is year 2. We didn't wait for that group to roll out. What we knew is we wanted to have kind of a stacking program where we were bringing on a new cohort every year.
So now there's 44 with awards out there, right?
Yes, sir.
Or something like that. Okay.
I am
17,
not
Haven't done the math.
good enough at math to give
16
you an
and
immediate
21,
answer.
37.
But yes, and
Entities.
that's where I got that 100 award number that I mentioned earlier. The idea is every year as we run this competition, we are adding additional capacity. So we are building up to eventually we'll reach a carrying capacity where each sort of cohort that comes to the end of their cycle, a new cohort will be starting, and we'll have level funding at around 100 programs.
Great.
Representative Brady?
Roughly what, since we were just talking 21C, I'm trying to understand the differences, similarities here. What is our annual funding for 21C?
Yeah, so the Daniel, that's on the state coordinator of that program. So the 21C funding, the allocation is roughly $6 million that goes out annually, and the program's leverage in cash an additional $8 million in other sources, but the federal allocation is 6. Yeah, so that's supporting 94 centers around the state.
And as of right now, that is not impacted by federal
Correct, it is not.
authority? Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
So we ran a second cohort. We saw continued growth and expansion. We're up to 26 awards to 21 unique entities. Still a relatively even split, slightly favoring schools between schools and community-based organizations. We're working with some of our partners to make sure that all the community-based organizations that are eligible for this funding are aware of the opportunity. We're working very closely with Vermont After School on that effort, and other partners. $13 million committed to 3- and 5-year awards, an additional $1.7 million for bringing those first cohort awards kind of into spec. You know, I mentioned we adjusted the award caps a little bit, and we increased from 3 to 5 years on the centers, so we had to set aside a little bit of money to make sure we had those changes covered. Still sites in 11 of 14 counties. That's a data point that we're interested in. So when we run this competition again in the next year, we're going to be working very closely with partners to sort of make sure that those 3 unrecognized counties are aware of this opportunity and taking advantage of it.
Certainly the map shows a
Yes,
desert. Yeah.
absolutely. And I do have one last map on my next slide, which I think does speak to that a little bit. 147 named partners, growth there. And this is, again, the most important part. New or expanded services to about 7,000 Vermonters. And that is not including the 4,000 from the first round. So I can do that math. It's 11,000. So I'm extremely happy with that number. And I look forward to seeing kind of growth there. So now the question is, what are we doing looking forward? Plans for the next 6 months. First, I'll point out this map right here. It doesn't exactly match this topic, but I needed to include it somewhere. The yellow points that are added here are the 21C funded sites.
Okay.
You have to do a little bit of color theory to see where there's overlap, but so that shows we have a pretty wide network of state-funded providers across the state. So what are we doing in the next 6 months to continue this good work and continue the expansion and development? First, we've gotten approval from the executive to add 2 more classified employees to the Agency of Education. One is going to be supporting regulatory compliance for community-based organizations. Because this grant is open to non-schools, we found that one of the sort of unexpected learnings we had was all of our technical support, all of our systems, all of our language is geared towards schools. A lot of work goes into translating that to different organizational structures. And then on the flip side, when we have our monitoring and oversight responsibilities, we are suddenly dealing with infinitely different arrangements of structures. So good, strong, well-developed organizations that have robust staffing and data management and record keeping and all that stuff, but just done very differently from the way schools do it, is requiring a little bit of work to make sure that we are doing our due diligence to sort of monitor their expense reporting and things. So this would be a position who is expanding our capacity and our expertise in that area. The other is an additional monitoring and oversight program for new grant programs, because we have 2 additional grant components that we are looking to add. The first is a technical support component, which would be a statewide provider who was helping us to identify some potential providers in those deserts, build networks, and support that kind of development. Enhancing the community of practice for after-school providers. We hear often that after-school directors are often the only after-school director in a 30-mile radius. They don't have peers and colleagues in their immediate radius. So this is something that we need to really intentionally support, and some professional training opportunities for after-school providers. We want this to be a robust professional community, and they need to be trained and resourced as such.
I'm gonna try my math, so 4 full-time permanent positions at the AOE were added for this program.
Yes, sir. And in the Act 78 authorizing legislation, one line item did specifically carve out $500,000 for the Agency of Education to increase capacity and support this work. So those positions are being funded out of that specific carve-out. Thank you for asking that question. That was
Well,
the
you said it
point.
was
I was
approved by
thinking
the
it.
executive branch. I'm thinking, I thought we built that into the legislative bill that we passed.
Yes.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Well,
So all the money from the cannabis sales have to go to these programs, they can't cover positions in AOE?
Outside of that $500,000 set aside,
Yep.
which is specifically for AOE capacity building,
Okay.
all of the rest of the funding needs to be used for expansion and development of after-school programming. That does include technical assistance and support for providers, though. So that's where this technical assistance grant comes into that component. And then the last piece is what we're calling a regional provider model. Building off of the growth we've seen with some of our partners, we know that there are entities and organizations in the state of Vermont that have content expertise. Groups like the Monshire Museum, groups like just this morning I was meeting with the Vermont Historical Society, who have this wonderful expertise. They have these wonderful resources. They have the capacity to provide programming, but not the capacity to run independent programs. So this would be a model that would support those sort of expert organizations to deliver programming in partnership with existing schools, community centers, libraries, municipal rec departments, who have the logistical support to kind of gather the youth and keep them safe. I ran a little bit over the time I had allocated for myself for this
We're on a
presentation.
pretty flexible schedule, so.
Okay.
Blame it on the tech issues.
Always happy for a technical issue. So I did, at this point, I was going to call up my two guests who've come to speak with us.
We might have a couple of questions for you before we.
And then I was going to do Q&A at the end, but if you would like to do questions now,
I think some of the more technical state government.
Please.
Just in case, I'm just curious about, what's the revenue? How steady is the revenue? How much are we looking at raising per year?
that is the $65,000 question, or last fiscal year, the $14 million question. Consistency is a bit of a problem. In the first year, we had $5 million of revenue raised. So when we were planning our second year, we were kind of going in with an assumption that, well, that was the first year, it'll probably go up a bit. We planned for 7. When we got the numbers in November, it was 14 million. So we have
I don't know if
done.
that's good news or bad news.
Yes. So it's exciting news, but it's also it requires a little bit of adjustment in our thinking. So we've looked at other states who've done sort of similar things, the kind of what their sort of trajectory looks like, and it seems pretty consistent that there's the first couple of years. In Colorado, is the first 5 years. There's sort of explosive growth, and then it kind of tapers down to a level. I don't think, I certainly don't have the expertise at this point to tell you what I expect that level to be. There's probably someone in state government who does have that expertise. If you find them, please forward me their phone number.
So what numbers are you using for planning purposes?
For planning purposes,
You're making 5-year commitments here.
Right.
Yes. So what we've been doing is we've been setting aside the funding for the full 5 years in each kind of cohort. So the money, we received $14 million in this round. So you can essentially say we divided that in 5 and said this is our 1-year commitment limit. So that, because we don't want to be in a position where we get to year 5 and nope, no money left. So that's how we've been handling that. Sort of with our longer term projections, I'm still kind of hovering around that 7 number. But
Per year.
yes, yes. But as we get kind of a deeper bank of data, we can refine that and get that more dialed in.
Yeah. Seems conservative, appropriately so.
Yeah, I'm a naturally nervous person. I don't like overspending my means.
Any other questions from the committee? Well, we'd love to
Thank
hear
you.
how things are on the ground.
Yeah. Beth, you are the closer seat.
Sure. Hello, I'm Beth Ann Miller from Missisquoi Valley School District. I have little handouts. I was also a professor at one point, so you can't beat it out of us. Shall I take your seat for a moment? Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely.
I feel like that's better. Nice to meet you all. Thank you for having us here. We are one of the grantees that also has a 21st Century Learning Grant. So it's an interesting balance having these 2 separate funding sources that are really creating some robust after-school opportunities. As you'll see on that first page, I'm spotlighting our internship program. That was really the program that took off for us. We, as Johannes mentioned earlier, we received the funding pretty quickly and had to dive right in July 1. So we learned a lot in that first experience. We were able to have 10 interns placed in community partnerships around our area and really start focusing on some of those soft work skills, some of that community building, really letting our students know from an early age what's around, what's here for them, what can we do to support them. There are plenty of safe adults around that want them to succeed. And we know that that's been something we've been hearing quite a bit about from adults in the community. We want our kids out there. We want our kids engaging. We want them doing something. All they're doing is sitting at home on their phones. We want them to be out there. So the success of the summer internship program was really, really exciting for us. We had 40 students apply for 10 positions, and it just, it was a great experience, again, learning experience. It was not perfect. But this summer we are diving right back in, and we are expanding it the best we can with the grant funding we have. So that's just been absolutely fantastic. One of my favorite parts of that in the learning experience was they were all on our payroll. We are paying our students to do this, and there is a culminating educational experience in there. They have to have reports, and they have to have outcomes and tell us what did they learn in this experience. And so they're put on our payroll, they go through our central office, they do that paperwork, and it's a lot, as we all know. And I had two of our interns working with Habitat for Humanity, and they are working so hard all summer long. We get 3 weeks into summer, and I receive the most professional email from a 14-year-old. Dear Miss Miller, we are having a great time working at Habitat for Humanity, boo, 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 boo. We're also inquiring about the payment. We have yet to be paid. And I realized in that moment, okay, payroll, we have to explain the biweekly pay cycle and how you start here and if you start in the middle of a pay cycle. So it was a really fantastic learning opportunity for me to say, okay, we can teach our kids this. We can teach them about this stuff and let them know that we got your back, you will be paid, but it's not that instant gratification, it is a biweekly payroll. So that was a learning experience for us to say, we can really start from the ground up here. We can really let some of these students know some of those benefits. So I don't want to take too much of our time, but the internship program, we're super psyched about it this summer. We have too many people that want to work with us now, which is great. It's a good problem for us to have. So we're trying to keep a diversity of experiences, making sure that we've got opportunities for all different types of students. We have a pretty serious vetting process where we're not necessarily prioritizing the student with the most polished resume, but really looking to see where can we help them grow. This is our opportunity to support them. We created a position called the Teen Leadership Liaison, and they check in with our students weekly to make sure that they're feeling good. They have the advocacy tools they need. They have the professional development they might be looking for. This liaison also works with our internship partners to kind of collaborate on that adult level, saying, what else support is needed here? What else can we do to kind of grow this position for these students? So that's one piece of what this funding has done for us, and it has honestly transformed our middle high school community. It's been really exciting to see. In addition to that, I'll just do a quick little overview of the other initiatives that this is funding, and I'll toss it over to my colleague because I don't want to take up all of our time. So in addition to the internship program, we've got our staff position, the teen leadership liaison. So she's working year-round, touching base with all of our teen leaders, not just our internship students. We have teen leaders placed in all of our elementary schools. She works with anywhere between 20 and 30 students, and they are working in our after-school programs, whether they're creating their own programs, creating their own clubs, providing support, doing some community service, hosting events after school. It's really dependent upon each student leader and what their interests are and how can we support them. So that position is also doing routine mentoring, one-on-ones, check-ins, all of that. That is also then part of our mentorship series. We have some students that are really hungry for additional leadership opportunities, so this liaison is specifically offering them one-on-one mentoring. There is also the Catalyst Future Readiness Center that is part of our after-school program. It kind of exists alongside our after-school program. And it's a drop-in center for our teens to get professional support in really any way they want. Do they want to look for a job now? Do they want to start talking about opportunities post-graduation? We are there to support them in a myriad of ways. And we've got our youth council, which is really created based upon the model from our Vermont Youth Project Youth Council that we worked with Brianne over here on for 5 years. And when that grant ran up for us, we were like, we can't let this momentum go. This youth council is so excited to continue participating in the community, raising grant funding to support all kinds of community initiatives. So I believe that is the breadth of what this one grant has done for us this past year. And again, a lot of lessons have been learned, but it's been fantastic and we're super excited to continue.
Can you talk a little bit about
Yeah.
which part of this is funded through 21C, which part is funded through Act 78?
Yeah, so Act 78 funds most of what I just mentioned. The teen leaders that's where we have a pretty distinct line between teen leaders that are really just there to kind of work in our after school programs and be a part of their school communities. That's where our 21C money is coming in to kind of create that culture. It's the specialized mentoring, the identifying these leaders that are hungry for more opportunities. That's where the Act 78 comes in. Everything else in 21C, our after school programs, all of that is our 21st Century Learning Program. So this is sort of a tack on to the high school, the Catalyst Readiness Hub and all of that stuff.
And are kids pretty enthusiastic about being part of this? Are you having, I mean, I know with the paid internships you're turning people away, but how about the rest of it?
Yeah, I actually, to be honest, I'm surprised at the continued engagement in our youth council. I figured after the money, so we're not necessarily paying them what they had been paid to be a part of this system. And they are so excited because they're seeing the evidence of the work they've been putting in. They're seeing what's happening in the community when they work together. So yeah, there's a lot of enthusiasm. The Catalyst Future Readiness Center, that ebbs and flows with, you can tell when the parents start putting a little pressure on for their kids to start joining us, but there's enthusiasm from both the kids and the adults.
And does the drop-in program, are kids using it to the extent that you had hoped?
Not to the extent we'd hoped as far as the amount of students taking advantage of it quite yet. It's middle schoolers and high schoolers, so there's a lot of, we do some, pizza parties and stuff to incentivize. But the thing that really surprised us is the frequency in which the students that do, they don't just come once. They come back, and they come back for additional follow-up. They want more coaching. They want more opportunities to apply for jobs. And I would say, handful of students that have applied for jobs with us have gotten those jobs, and then they come back just to share the news for us. So it's the frequency that they attend is surprising. The amount we're still working on.
Representative Brady.
Are your 21C after-school programs full?
As enrollment-wise?
Yeah.
So our elementary schools are slammed.
Are there people on wait lists that are not?
In 2 of our elementary schools, yes. The middle high school has good attendance, but it's not at capacity. And that is something that we continue to work on and really spreading the word. And we've again, with this Act 78 funding, it's been nice to create a space. It's been able to, again, that hub space that has been furnished is making students feel a bit more at home in school when they come to us.
Representative Wong.
Do you provide transportation for students and after school?
We do, during the school year. This year was our first year that we're not able to offer summer transportation, and it was a pretty big hit to the community, but we messaged it out well. People were more understanding than I expected. I got way fewer angry phone calls than I'd expected. So not for summer, but over the school year, yes.
So it's a late bus?
It's a late bus,
Yes,
yeah.
yep. Takes them home after around 5 o'clock.
Like, is it one, it comes up in our district all the
Sure,
time, is it
yeah.
one bus that just like goes everywhere?
No, it is fun. Do you want the data? It's no, we've got about 6 buses that run
They do a late bus.
because we are up in a spread
Yeah.
out community. So some of our, and unfortunately some of our routes are quite long. So some kids aren't getting home till about 6:30, which we would like to make that shorter, but it's very expensive.
So I was just gonna ask, is your late bus funded through the 21C funding and not through your school budget?
So it's under our after-school program, and transportation is primarily covered by 21C, yes. We do have additional sources that match our funding, so we split it up as evenly as we can, but 21C does handle much of the transportation.
Yeah. That's often the hardest hurdle to get over is transportation.
Yes, it continues, as you know, with inflation, it continues to be a challenge, and that's why we decided we prioritized school year over summer, simply to make sure we're providing as much access as possible.
Is there a question?
Yeah, it's sort of another
Yeah.
additional food
Yes.
service. I mean, do you do that in summer? Are you doing that?
We do. We have the SFSP program that we utilize. Depending on our eligibility, we have used NSLP in the past, but we are all SFSP eligible this year, and then we have CACFP during the school year for as long as it's around.
Yeah.
Great, thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I'm going to pass this down. It's not quite as robust as what you received before. It is a postcard. It's two-sided.
Well, we're really big on narrowing things down just a few sentences.
Refine as we move it. My name is Alyssa Hunt. I'm the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club of Brattleboro. We're down in Windham County, of course. I don't know how familiar you are with Windham County, how often you're down there. It has been in decline. Brattleboro has been struggling, and I'm going to tell you a story through numbers. There are about 12,000 people in Brattleboro, and about 10% of that is children. And there's children who belong to my program, who are eligible by age to be in my program of 6th through 12th grade. We have a separate program that runs kindergarten through 5th grade. Vermont After School has done a lot to help us build capacity for that. And we have a wait list now because of what you all have enabled us to do. So in the school year 2023-2024, the average daily attendance at my teen center was 12. And in that school year, there were 105 unique teen check-ins, kids who came. This year, since September, our average daily attendance is around 23, and we have had 196 unique check-ins. We are a drop-in model, so no one is required to come. They come because they want to be in our site, they want to participate in our programs and be around our staff. What you see on the back of this postcard are quotes from the kids who come to our program that I was able to pull together yesterday. Because I wasn't sure, I didn't realize I was coming here until recently, so we pulled this together yesterday, and this is what they have to say about why our club is important to them. If you know much about Brattleboro, you know that West Brattleboro is the poorest municipality in Vermont. We have the highest rate of violent crime, of property crime, of homelessness, and substance abuse disorders in the state, and in many cases in the entire region. And you also know, probably because you sit on this committee, that the single biggest indicator of whether or not the children in your community become part of those statistics as they get older is whether or not they have meaningful relationships with adults in their lives who are not their parents. And that is what this agency is providing through funding our teen center at the Boys and Girls Club. Before this grant came through, we did not have any full-time staff. Because of this funding, I started last July, and I called a woman named Julia, If you have the postcard with the kid wrapped up like a Christmas tree, you can see her crouching in the bottom right. They're all different. But if you have our holiday postcard, then you can see Julia crouching in the bottom and Lucas wrapped up in foil right in the middle with a bow on his head. Julia was the community and culture director, which was basically the program director. A different administrator had a different name for it 2 years ago, and she left because she lives in Wilmington, and she was offered a job at the Chamber of Commerce in Wilmington. It was in her backyard and paid more. I called her last year and said, hey, the position is back. I can't pay you as much as you're making now, and you'll have to commute a lot further. Will you come back? And she said yes. I miss the kids. I want to be a part. I miss doing work that allows me to see the impact of what I'm doing. The chamber work is fun, but it's not the same meaning that I was getting from my work with the teen center. Because of this funding, and because I am able to have staff members like Julia that I can pay for because of this grant, and that I know I can hire because I have years that I know my funding won't disappear, so I can sustain the position as our capacity grows. In the last 60 days, we've had 30 new members join our club, which is just more than that's bigger than any other time period since we have records. We have 3 new Vermonters who are on my staff who came here as refugees. We have 10 different organizations in our community that we partner with. Because of a separate grant that we have through the Vermont Children's Trust Foundation, we are doing post-secondary readiness programming. We have a private college counselor who comes and does how to apply to college workshops every week. She does drop-in hours where she helps teenagers apply, like write their college applications. She edits their essays for them, helps them do their financial aid applications. We had a mechanics camp over spring break where a community partner who has a private garage let us bring a group of kids, because we have a staff member who used to be a mechanic, and trained them how to check their fluid levels and change tires and check their spark plugs. We do not have a certified kitchen in our building. If you've ever been there, you know that it used to be the Flat Street nightclub, and before that it was a parking garage. So it's a really unique space. But Julia, our program director, went to culinary school, and so we have some countertop hot plates and convection oven, and she just teaches the kids to cook. And so they make themselves spaghetti and quesadillas, and we get fresh fruit. So we are doing what we can to get food in there. We are actually eligible for CACFP, but the local school district doesn't have the capacity to make the meals for us to go get because they are strapped like everyone else in our area. But the what we have seen with our kids has been really transformational. There's just, when I started, there were maybe 10 kids coming in each day, and now there's between 20 and 30 every single day. And because it's drop-in, it's a rotating cast. They have sports, they have band, they have whatever other activities they're doing. But we have some of them were open till 7 p.m. We have some who come in at 6:15 just so they can spend half an hour in the club. And if you look at the quotes on the back of this postcard, I could tell you all kinds of statistics about how every dollar you invest in out-of-school programming has $10 in benefits in the community. I could give you statistics about, that's specifically true for Boys and Girls Clubs. I could give you statistics about crime and recidivism rates among juveniles with delinquency issues. But I assume that the other packets that are in front of you also have all that data, and that you saw a lot of that when you were discussing the structure of this grant and whether or not to pass it. And so what I instead want to talk about is how, if you look at those quotes, what you see the children talking about is that they have a third space. There are no third spaces for children in Brattleboro. And largely in the world, we've kind of gotten rid of them. There's no soda counters where the kids can hang out and where George Bailey can hang out with Mary. But at the Boys and Girls Club, we have that. They can come do our robust slate of programming. They can go to the tech lab and they can learn coding and programming and play Minecraft with their friends, and they can use our makerspace, and they can play basketball, and they can cook. But they can also just sit on the couches with their friends and get soda and candy from the co-op, which they frequently do, and gossip. And this is, I got a frantic call from Julia at 7 o'clock last night because the kids had gone with one of our staff to the local park just to hang out because it was a beautiful day.
And she's like, I don't know, should I write an incident report? Phoebe, the staffer, looked up, and 2 of the 12-year-olds, he leaned over and he gave her a kiss. I said, that's great. I mean, tell them that we don't kiss at the club, because that's not what the club is for, but that means that they are building meaningful relationships with other humans in a face-to-face capacity and having the normal childhood experiences that I was a public school teacher before I came to Vermont to do this job. And COVID and technology have robbed our children of childhoods and of adolescence. And the club is a space where they can reclaim that.
Well, we have to ask, because we're debating phone-free schools. Do you have a cell phone rule within your club?
We have a phone zone. If we said no phones, they would not come.
Yeah.
That's just, we tried,
Yeah.
and they didn't come. We are in ongoing negotiation with the children around what our phone policy is. We try to give them as much space to influence policy in the club as we can. During town meeting days, they had a club town meeting where they went through our club policies and they got to choose a priority one to debate. The teenage boys said they really wanted to be able to curse when they play sports. So the compromise was, well, you get one a day, but it can't. But it has to come out naturally, like you bang your knee on the wall. So we try to be responsive and give them a sense of agency and ownership over what the rules that govern their time in the club is. Phone is a back and forth. They cannot use social media in the club. That's our hard line, because they're there to have actual social interactions. And they follow. We find that the more room we give them to negotiate, the more they follow it. And I have my email addresses up on the wall, right in the middle of their lounge space. And so it says, if you ever, and I'm there, in the afternoons. If you ever have a problem with a rule, email Alyssa in an appropriate email format, and then you can set up a meeting.
Mm-hmm. So if they're not using social media with their phones in the club, what are they using their phones for in the phone zone?
Sometimes they play video games on them. Mm-hmm. They text their friends. They don't use their phones a ton because they can't use social media. And if we see them on their phone, we send them to the phone zone, and then they usually put it away. Except the one kid who's always playing a car mechanic game on it. Also Lucas, who was wrapped up like a Christmas tree. And the postcards, yeah. Lucas loves cars.
Talk a little bit about the process for obtaining the grant, how that has worked.
So I started...
And how the level of monitoring is thereafter.
So I started after the grant was awarded. I came into this position in July. We had an interim executive who is the vice president of my board of directors, who had stepped down from the board to be interim when they were in between directors. And he, working with Faith Stamps, who is some of you may have interacted with because she's our government relations official for Boys and Girls Clubs in this region, they wrote it. And in terms of monitoring and reporting, we have the templates and data intake sheets, and we track our attendance really robustly. Boys and Girls Clubs of America has a platform called My Club Hub. It's built out in Salesforce. Mm-hmm. And so when our kids walk in the door, they pick up a little gun and they scan a barcode. That is their membership barcode. And when they leave, they scan it again. And if they leave by themselves to go to the co-op and buy soda, they scan out, they scan in. So we know exactly how many hours a day our kids are in the club, and we can run reports on all of that. So we are actually at a real advantage in terms of tracking our program participation. We track all of it because we have to as a membership requirement of Boys and Girls Clubs.
Mm-hmm. Question. I would also ask, what is the sort of your relationship with Vermont After School in terms of the services they're providing?
Sure. So we have our 2 sites. We have our teen center, which I'm speaking about here, and then we have what we call our kids club, which is at a different site. It's at the Retreat Farm in Brattleboro. If you're ever in Windham County, you should go. It's amazing. It is an event center, and it's a working farm. They have goats. They had an ox, but he passed away recently. They have a garden. They have a few, 180 acres of trails with a forest playground. And so our after-school program happens there. And our kids' classroom for the kindergarten through 5th graders happens in the calf barn. There's a little classroom next to where the little animals are housed. And We pick the kids up after school. We have 3 vans. We go to all the different area school, all 3 elementary schools in town. We pick the kids up, we bring them there, and Vermont After School funded. They funded us getting a lot of the supplies we needed to outfit that space, and they funded, in the most recent round of grants, us to expand our capacity. We were able to reach out to the New Vermonter community specifically to help them get subsidy to get their kids into the program, and we were able to hire a New Vermonter to give us enough staff to fill the remaining 6 spots we can have per our license. But that because it receives subsidy, generates enough revenue to cover the staffing costs and the space rental costs for the organization or for the program.
Committee members, any other questions? I appreciate you making the trip all the way up here to share with us what goes on the ground.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I can't overstate the importance and impact of what this has done for our community.
Yeah. We all have to wrestle with how that money is generated as we celebrate it.
Well, and it's true because we know from data about alcohol use, if there's alcohol, kids are drinking. If there's cannabis, kids are smoking. So we're trying to keep them in the club so they won't be getting high.
Less idle time. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Donna, did you have anything else for us?
No, I did want to make sort of one last opportunity for any questions that came up, and then also I think I want to extend on behalf of Vermont After School an invitation this afternoon right here on your lovely State House grounds in the cafeteria. At 3 o'clock, Vermont After School is going to be hosting an ice cream social to celebrate
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
I was like,
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
No, we're not ready.
Right now, they just started. At 4 o'clock, they're going to be hosting an ice cream social to celebrate after-school practitioners. There's going to be more practitioners from the field there, so that'll be a wonderful opportunity for you to come and eat a little ice cream and learn a little bit more about some of the great programs that are happening in our state.
Just for everybody's sort of clarification on the committee, what is sort of the relationship of AOE and Vermont After School?
Yeah.
Sort of the services they provide on your behalf.
Yeah, so at this point, the relationship between AOE and Vermont After School, we have a sort of professional working relationship in that we recognize we are supporting very similar organizations. So we are sort of often connecting on how we can collaborate to achieve common goals. And then there is also an existing contract between AOE and Vermont After School, specifically pertaining to 21C implementation. And then I might, if you're curious about the specific details around that, throw the floor over to Emmanuel, because he is the one who oversees that.
Yeah, that'd be great. If you would like, go right from there is fine. Yeah.
So what would you like to know?
I think for the committee's sake, who hasn't been immersed in this, what is, and we have folks from Vermont After School, just to have you tell us what you're about and your relationship with the AOE and state funding.
The 21C program, and it flows through Act 78 as well, is totally rooted in partnerships. So even at the state level and even at the federal level, there was a nonprofit partner that worked actually with the federal Department of Education. So when the agency was getting lots of cuts throughout the years, over the years, and as the program was growing, we needed a methodology. So we've put out a request for proposal over the years for technical assistance, coaching, individual sustained support, leadership development, where everybody comes together and shares best practices, et cetera, good content. So there's a bunch of deliverables. So that's we're in year 2 of the 3-year contract. So that's been a long-standing great service. It's also, there's a lot of collaboration, so we work really well together. We meet, Nicole and I meet weekly, and her team is working with the field directly. It's a really nice symbiotic sort of public-private partnership, which is also engenders the spirit of all this work, So we're kind of walking the walk at the state level, I feel. Yeah, so it's been good.
Please.
Hi everyone, Nicole Miller, Executive Director of Vermont After School for the record. I would agree everything with what Emmanuel has said. I was a past 21C director for 10 years. And so I know that work really, really well and remember what I needed in that time to make my program thrive and for me to keep in that position. And so it's a lot of the work that we foundationally support through our contract with the Agency of Education to support the 21C programs. Vermont After School also has a grant agreement with the Child Development Division to support licensed and regulated programs doing similar work, slightly different approach, but we do that work. And so that's Vermont After School's overall mission is to strengthen after school and summer programs, including the professionals that work within them, to empower young people. Some of you may know that we support the State Youth Council as well as some of the local youth councils that Beth Ann talked about, and then to expand access. And that's really where we've been championing the work of the Agency of Education and the rollout of Act 78. Vermont After School does sit on the After School and Summer Advisory Group that is advisory to the Agency of Education, along with representatives from the Governor's Office, Department of Labor, Child Development Division, Department of Mental Health, Department of Health, et cetera, et cetera. There's a whole big group that meets. Yeah, we're just thrilled at the investment that Vermont has made in young people. It's not something that is happening in every state, and so it's part of the reason why we're here celebrating with ice cream at 4 o'clock.
May I add one thing to that really quick? As somebody who benefits from the mentorship of Vermont After School, just take a look at their professional development catalog sometime online. My staff has access to incredible professional development opportunities that aren't often specified for after-school folks, and it's just an incredible resource, and we've got one-on-one mentoring from our Vermont After-School colleagues that just has really transformed the culture of how our district even views after school, so it's been a fantastic, I've benefited from it, so.
Representative Brady.
As a general rule, I guess for everybody here, are staffing challenges persistent? Is it leveling off? Is it because you're use youth more? Not like I know at one time, programs were not opening, summer programs couldn't run. What's the sort of vibe on staffing after school and summer?
I think
days?
during the crux of when it was a bit of a crisis, during COVID, we're not at that point anymore, which is fantastic. I think a lot of it varies geographically. Beth Ann was just sharing, I hope it's okay.
Yeah,
I'm sharing
go for it.
that her middle school site coordinator position was open, and those can be challenging positions. They're part-time, sometimes do not have benefits, it depends program by program. And she had multiple candidates and qualified and really consistent, awesome people. So that's exciting. I don't know, I don't know if you would have any, I don't know of anyone that is not able to open a program at this point, but it's kind of a pervasive challenge.
The vibe is on an upswing, but it really varies radically by location. So some will see there are no problems, and others are having real problems.
I would say my staffing challenges are profound. I cannot find qualified staff. I cannot keep qualified staff. I can't speak to the rest of Vermont, but housing in Windham County is absolutely in crisis. I have a staff member who is living in my guest room right now because she lost her housing. She's incredibly good she's really good. She has a college degree, which very few people on my staff do. And the children adore her. She lost her housing with no notice. And so she's in my guest room until she finds something else because I didn't want to lose her. So I would say almost all of my positions are part-time.
Yes.
I run an after-school center. I don't have a lot of full-time positions, and we pay, my starting hourly rate is $20, and we offer paid sick leave and paid holidays. My few staff members who are full-time get PTO, they get an IRA, they get a matching IRA, they get health insurance that we pay almost the entire premium for, and I still struggle to find people. It's really hard.
It's definitely a difficult field to staff for, just for all of those reasons. And I agree with Emmanuel. I've been seeing an upswing in our area, but we have to ebb and flow. Sometimes we have to reduce our program capacity based on lack of physical, literal adults in the room.
Yeah.
So it's an ongoing challenge, but I have seen progress, which is nice.
I think traditionally, in the old days, when we used to dramatically underpay teachers, they tended to be the ones who were available in the summers and after school.